Hello and welcome to the Domer Nurse Podcast. This is your host, Greg Schaefer. If anybody knows me, and most of you listening to this right now probably do know me, otherwise, a few people out there, probably one or two, might be listening to this and not know who the heck I am. If you're asking what the hell a Domer Nurse is, well, we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Anybody that knows me know I've been threatening to do this for a long time, so with no experience whatsoever on the radio. I actually don't even think I've been on the radio before. I have to think about that. No, I really don't. I've been interviewed for playing sports and this and that, but never actually been on the radio. So, and when I say interviewed for being playing sports, definitely not on a professional team. Again, anyone that knows me, I keep saying that, but those are the only people probably listening to this this first episode. I played sports my whole life. I'm definitely a lifetime athlete and still continue to compete in jiu-jitsu and coach in jiu-jitsu and grappling at the High Combat Sports Academy under Dustin Ware, who will probably be one of our guests here in the future if this doesn't bomb after the very first one and I don't chuck this equalizer out the window. Again, no experience, so I'm just hopping right into it. This is episode 1, again, the Domer Nurse Podcast. Hopefully you're listening to this. If you're not, this is just some dude who owns 3 cats talking to himself in his spare bedroom. So let's get right to it. I'll give you a little info about me before I get going. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've threatened it for a while, so hopefully I'm not destroying your listening opportunities here for other podcasts. And you might ask yourself, why would I listen to your podcast over anybody else on a podcast or radio? Well, I'm not saying you should. There's plenty of other good shows out there, I'm sure. One of them in particular, if you're listening to this between 6 to 10 during a week, Monday through Friday, stop. Turn this off right now. Turn this crap off and tune in to CBS Sports and listen to the DA show. DA is one of my inspirations, Damon Amendolara. Him and Mraz and Jolton Joe DeLuizio, they do a wonderful job. They give you stuff to think about. Great show. I'm a little aggravated that 95.5 here in our state, in Central Ohio, they kind of took it away. That was our CBS affiliate. I'm not sure what they were thinking there. I don't even know what's on there now, but bring it back. We want CBS Sports back. I hate chewing my data up every night, but I still will. DA is one of my inspirations. A couple other inspirations I have for doing this is a guy like Jay Billis. Big Jay Billis fan. Tells it like it is. He's a Duke guy. I'm not a Duke fan, and we'll get into who I'm a fan of because I have a stance on that. But Billis is awesome. Doug Gottlieb's really good. Gio and Jones, again, on CBS Sports. I feel like a lot of the talent that ESPN's losing is going over to CBS Sports. I tell all my friends, everybody, and this is not me plugging them. I don't have to plug them. They got enough money. Some dude just making his own podcast for the first time. Again, zero experience. So hopefully you haven't turned me off just yet, but we'll see what happens. But again, I think all the talent has jumped over to CBS Sports. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to hop into this whole podcasting thing. Talked to some friends for a while. We thought about doing it, and I'm hopefully got some good guests to come on here in the future. I'm very fortunate to be very plugged in, or have some friends that are very plugged in to sports themselves. Here in a few minutes, I'll give you some guests to expect and kind of their insight. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by some people that are really plugged into sports. We all love sports. And we all played some kind of sport at a various level. No real pros, but we all just share the same love for sports. And we're all locked into a specific area. And I think it'll be really good. Give some people some insight. We're not going to break news first on this podcast if it even does make it past the second episode. Because the second episode is already done. I put a lot of time into this. I can see why more people don't do podcasts, actually, after putting this together. This is work. It's fun. I'd love for this to be my real job. Going back to the name of the show, I said I'd explain it. It's Domer Nurse Show. Wasn't my first choice, but I am a huge Notre Dame fan. A bigger Notre Dame fan than you, at least that's what Twitter says. Even though I wrote it, it's got to be true if it's on the Twitter machine. And all Notre Dame athletics, I've missed important events in other people's lives for all Notre Dame athletics. I'm not just that guy that's like, I'm a Notre Dame football fan, but I like UConn and basketball, or whatever the case might be. No, I am Notre Dame lacrosse, golf, underwater basket weaving. I am a Notre Dame fan. I did not go to Notre Dame. I'm what they call a Subway alum. I did not go there. I grew up a Notre Dame fan and been a fan of them ever since. I'm not, for the majority of my listening audience this time around, I'm pretty sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. And if you didn't know that, wow, apparently we're probably just not friends then. I got the Block ND tattooed on my left arm. I got the leprechaun on my right arm, part of a half sleeve. So yeah, I go to a couple Notre Dame football games a year. Love them. I think it's important for podcasters and sports personalities. I think it's important to show their stance. There's a reason they got in the game. I think that's why a lot of guys on the radio and stuff are so kind of sometimes come off as very unlikable. Just my opinion. It seems like they don't really say their stance. Like, what's your stance? Who's your team? They want to throw an opinion out there. They want to criticize, but they're never saying their team. That's wwhy this first show, like I said, going to be a little bit longer. And we'll get into my topics, but it's always good. Anytime you do something for the first time, you set areas of how the show is going to be and what people can expect. And then in the future episodes, I can just say, hey, download the first podcast if you want to know the answer to that, if it's not too long of a story. Again, name of the show, Domer Nurse Sports Podcast. I am a nurse, been a nurse for about 9 years now, and I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. Like I said, the first choice was not taken. I'm not going to plug what my first choice was because then you'll search it and you won't listen to my podcast, but I'll just tell you it sucks. I listened to their show and I didn't like it. So that's, again, just my opinion, but I really wanted that name. But let's get into some of the teams that I root for. That way you guys know where I'm coming from, know how I feel about certain teams. Actually, before we get into that, let me go ahead and give you how this show is going to be run down each week. Each week or each episode, I'm going to give you a little intro, a little something off the top, and then we're going to get into the starting lineup, and we'll talk about what we're going to talk about throughout the show. We're going to have a leadoff story. We'll have an on-deck story. We'll have an in the hole. Homer in the hole is what I'm going to call it. And what I mean by Homer in the hole is that's about the time that you should probably turn off your set if you're not a fan of the teams that I'm about to talk about that I support. That's why we're going to call it Homer in the hole. That way I can slobber all over my teams for a little bit. Not all of them. One or two each week or each episode. We'll kind of slobber all over them. And then we'll go into our cleanup story. And then in the final segment, I'll give you what I call the backup quarterback section. And then once we get there, I'll kind of elaborate on why I called it the backup quarterback section. So teams I support, right off the top, obviously Notre Dame fan, huge Notre Dame fan, mostly in football, but also support the basketball team. Mike Bray's got the boys rolling. That'll be part of my Homer in the hole section of this podcast this time around. 21-7, just knocked off NC State today, 81-72. So definitely a huge Notre Dame fan. I feel like there's different levels of fans. You have if you're a sports fan like me, there's always a season you're in with your teams. You may have like 3 levels of fan that I like to look at. There's, you have a team that, kind of like you say, I support that team, but your level of support goes to, I'm going to check my phone and see if they won, and it doesn't really affect my day-to-day. You might check it 3 days later. Your second level of fan is you might buy a hat or this or that. You might go to one of their games, know a couple players on the team, and all right, that's your level of support. Now, the top level for me, Notre Dame, the Bears, the Cubs, the Pacers and Spurs. Yes, I am a fan of 2 teams in the NBA. Those teams right there, those are the ones you miss weddings for. Depending on who died in the family, you miss that funeral. Just kidding. You miss special events for that one. You get the tattoos done. You get all of the gear. You have shirts, ties. You deck out the vehicle. It ruins your week till Thursday when they lose or till the next time they play and win. You are the irrational fan. So, again, Notre Dame, everything in sports. I'm a Cub fan. We'll get into that a little bit. To our top stories today, our leadoff man and our on-deck story are going to be how kind of similarities between the Cubs and a couple situations that have been going on in sports here lately. mentioned the Bears. Spurs fan. I grew up a Pacer fan. If I can explain the Spur-Pacer thing. Grew up a Pacer fan until Tim Duncan came along, and I hopped on that bandwagon and rode it until retirement, and I'm still a fan. Kawhi Leonard's kind of taken his place for me as far as my man love for Tim Duncan, but absolutely my favorite player of all time, probably in any sport, is Tim Duncan. Yeah, so I don't know if you might call me a bandwagon hopper because of all the success they've had, but if you've been a fan for over 20 years, are you still a bandwagon hopper? We'll argue that another day. So those are the kind of the top level teams that I cheer for. My second level teams, for sure, Bengal fan all the way as far as that goes, unless they're playing the Bears. I got you. I'm a Bengal fan for sure. Xavier basketball. We'll do a little bit in the Homer in the Hole section on Xavier basketball and their status before the tournament coming up. And I am a Bobcat. I'm an OU University alum, so every now and then we'll sprinkle. I don't follow them too much. We'll sprinkle in some things with OU and their sports and relative success they've had in football, and always a strong basketball team. Always strong in basketball. So in tertiary teams like that bottom level where you just kind of check your phone at night, you might say, Greg, you didn't mention the NHL teams. I like the sport. I love the sport. It's fun. I think they're the toughest guys on the planet, probably the best athletes on the planet. Maybe not athletic as far as basketball players, but damn, these guys are so tough. So tough. They're doing this, 81 games a season, no matter how bad their team is. 82 games a season, no matter how bad their team is, they're coming out there laying it out every night. Guys playing with broken fibulas, like, good night. Those guys are tough. You're not just running up and down the floor. And skating's hard. Skating is not easy. Skating is tough. Very tough. In fact, I hope this podcast doesn't turn into how I feel about skating. Very few people see me ice skate, and I'll tell you how this kind of analogy goes, is when I ice skate, it starts out pretty rough. I don't fall. That's my one credit. But as I get going, I'm like, all right, I feel pretty good about this. And then I get in my own head about it and say, I been doing this my whole life. I'm really good. And then I start getting down into stances, and I start, trying to do things and this and that, and I feel great about it. Well, then I see the video, and in my mind, I'm not only feeling like Brian Boitano, I am Brian Boitano out on the ice. I look good. Well, that's in my head. When I watch the video, anybody ever videotape me ice skating, it's just me fighting gravity. So let's hope this podcast doesn't turn into that, where I feel like I'm doing great, and in reality, that. So before we get into the topics today, let's go over some guests to expect in some very near in the future episodes. Couple friends. I'm an only child, so friends that are like brothers to me will be hopping in on the show. And again, I said I'm very fortunate to be plugged in, or have friends that are so plugged in to sports and have kind of their specialty areas that they can bring to the table and help out. Because this is just, this is for fun. I'm not trying to make millions off this. Not trying to make a dime off of it, actually. Already in the hole. Doesn't bother me. Just something I've always wanted to delve into and have some fun with. Jerry Kaler, good buddy of mine, probably the best friend I got. He's going to be bringing to the table Buckeye sports, college football recruiting, MMA, and the NBA. It's one of my best friends, loyal training partners in jiu-jitsu. Ricky Smith will also be on the show. He's from Brooklyn. He is an NCAA referee. He's reffed as high as Big Ten games, as low as Division III basketball. He is, again, from New York. He's, of course, a fan of the Yankees, fan of the Knicks, fan of the Giants. He will argue with you till the end of time about the greatness of Eli Manning, subject for another day. But I hope to get him on real soon to discuss March Madness, college basketball, the forecast of that, give a little insight of what it's like to be an NCAA referee, and then, of course, the James Dolan, Charles Oakley situation happening there in New York. Next guest to look forward to is Dusty Elk, played college baseball and now plays high level softball. And we'll bring him in, too, for the All Teams You Love to Hate segment. I'm going to hope to run that segment probably in the next month or so. Probably just about the time either Duke flames out of the tournament or wins another national title. They don't seem to just go in and go to a Sweet 16 anymore. It's like this great upset or they win it all. Kind of interesting. But Dusty is a Duke fan, a Michigan fan, which goes over like a lead balloon here in Ohio. he's also somehow a Browns fan and a Yankee fan. So, all teams you love to hate, that's his guys. And Dusty will also give us some perspective also on MLB. He's one of the Major League Baseball. He's one of the guys that he follows the MLB probably every bit about as much as I do. I mean, we're the only guys I know getting excited about free agency and this, that, and the third during during the heat of football season. Baseball's just got over, and this guy, me and him, will shoot texts back and forth, Bleacher Report links on, oh my gosh, can you believe you picked up this guy? Oh, it's so great. And, season's still months away. Last couple here, we got Kyle Davis, semi-pro hockey player, and he's also from the Cincinnati area. He'll be giving us some rundown of some hockey stuff. He's very plugged into hockey. I'm not sure that the NHL Network actually goes off at his house. I don't know. I'd have to get confirmation from his wife on that. But congratulations to them, actually, to plug this in here. Their birth of their first child back in November, Harper. So congrats to Kyle and Ashley. And he'll give us a rundown here and there on living in Cincinnati. He's like a half hour away from literally everything in Cincinnati. So get a pulse of Cincinnati area sports plus some hockey talk with him. Dustin Ware, my coach, we'll bring him on for some MMA perspective. Dustin's been on the forefront of everything that is MMA or grappling since before you've heard about it. Okay, anything in the Midwest, he's been on the ground floor. Was actually at the first show that was ever MMA show that was ever fought in Ohio. So that'll be fun. Rick Dillon, my brother-in-law, will bring him in just for some general perspective of all sports, and he's probably the only family member friend that I have that supports a West Coast team. He's a 49ers fan till the day he dies, so that'll be fun. And unless you ask Ricky, or one of our future guests who calls me GSG for Golden State Greg, because he knows I hate the Warriors, but it's okay. I'm going to turn that around on him, and instead of GSG for Golden State Greg, we're going to say go Spurs go from now on. So there you go, Ricky. That's my comeback for that. And then last but not least, my wife, Ashley Schaefer, she's going to come on with me, and she's going to do the kind of casual woman sports perspective. She's a big sports fan, too. Big Cubs fan. Huge Cub fan, actually. Huge Notre Dame fan, but the Cubs are nearest and dearest to her heart. So, I'm going to bring her in. She's going to be in on this show a lot. She's basically going to be my co-host. The reason she's not a full-time co-host is she's not as plugged into sports as I am, and there are a couple specialty shows I look to do in the future. And kind of, nothing stuff she's really too plugged into, but for a casual woman's perspective, somebody who's married to a big sports fan, it's nice to get their perspective on things. And sometimes guys like us, we're kind of too close to these situations. So, all right, some of these stories, I've been waiting to get this first episode off the ground. So, a couple of these are a little older, but not quite. Not too terribly old, but there's just some things I wanted to hit on with some of these topics we'll be bringing in today. First topic of the day is Cubs win the series. Thank God it happened. Hashtag it happened. Hashtag we did not suck. Go Cubs go. Yes, we did it. Woo! We did it. Cubs win the series. And you might be saying, Greg, what the hell? That you said a little bit older story, not old story. Well, let me tell you one thing. The Cubs now have the shortest drought in all of Major League Baseball. The shortest drought. And so what if it just so happened to happen, 107 days, 19 hours, and 3 minutes ago? But who's counting? 14, 15, 16 seconds ago? And now you're probably turning off your radio saying, I thought Homer in the Hole didn't happen until later. Now, no, I'm not homering yet. Not a little bit. Yes, I am. But what I'm reading into here is kind of my leadoff man story of the day is the Super Bowl. Always hot button. You can talk about the Super Bowl, any Super Bowl, for months after it happens, and people are in there with you on it. They love to talk Super Bowl. The NFL, my God, the NFL's delayed the draft just so that they can, stay in the limelight and keep people talking about it. I was excited about this Super Bowl. I was so pumped, and there's very few that I do. A lot of it's because of my man love for Matt Ryan. I love the guy. I've followed him since college. The guy had very few offers. There's been a couple times in my life where if I was a sports commentator, I would be so right, and there was other times I would be so wrong. And this is one of the times I was right. I said Notre Dame should go after this guy. I think I was in high school when he came. Yeah, I was still in high school. I was like, this guy, he fits the system. He'll be fine. Yeah, the guy only had, I think, Georgia Tech, BC, a couple other smaller school offers, mid-level. Georgia Tech's a nice football program, but that's not Alabama. It's not Ohio State. It's not, Notre Dame, SC. It's not that level. Not to say Notre Dame is right now. Story for another day. But, it's not those, when you think BC or, Georgia Tech or Indiana, I think he had an offer from Purdue, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, love Matt Ryan. So this one hit near and dear to my heart to see this happen to him, this collapse. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into with this is the similarity between, the collapse of this Super Bowl and the collapse of the Cubs, the near collapse of the Cubs, and how close Joe Madden could be to being in the position of Kyle Shanahan right now. Yeah, I hope Shanahan the best. I hope he does well, especially having a brother-in-law that's so locked into the Niners. I always got his back there, and unless they're playing one of my teams, or Colin Kaepernick's still the quarterback. But yeah, I hope Shanahan. This is a loss that's going to follow this team. I wish him the best. He seems like a good guy, and like I said, a lot of man love for Matt Ryan on my part, but this is going to sting. I don't know if the Falcons recover and win a Super Bowl after this. I certainly don't think they do this year. Statistics show it is so difficult to get back unless you're the Bills, who still couldn't even win one. I mean, they got back there. The one thing they do have on their side coming back is they have a lot of youth on defense, youth that just gassed themselves. And then they have Matt Ryan. They have a top level quarterback that can obviously get them there. He did it this year. He absolutely worked the Packers. He beat up on the Seahawks. But yeah, man, 28-3. They were up with 2:07 left in the third quarter. Tevin Coleman's touchdown came with 8:31 left to go in the third. And, everything was going right. Everybody talks about, run the clock out, this, that, and the third. Well, everything was going just fine. The 13-play drive that put the Patriots within, 28-9. That's fine. You live with that. They burn up the clock. Watching that game with my brother-in-law, I'm sitting there saying, okay, that's fine. Let them score. It just doesn't matter. It just matters how long it takes them to score. Let them have it. 20-play drive for 12 minutes. Great. You're up 28-3. 13-play drive. That was one key point. They missed the extra point. Doinks off the right upright, and then they couldn't recover the onside kick. All's right with the world. Falcons are rolling. Even when they were score 28-12, it's all good. Just run the ball. And there's a lot of blame to be passed around off of this. When it was 28-20, 5:56 to go, I said it was over. The momentum had swung. I've watched enough sports. And when I get Rick on here, he can vouch for me. We'll try to come back to this if I can remember it. Yeah, I said it was over. That was it. There's a lot of things that were involved there. You want to blame Shanahan. And I'm not letting him off the hook here, but there was a lot of things involved. There was terrible play calling. There is somebody that I don't think's getting enough scrutiny is Dan Quinn. Aren't you the head coach of this team? Think about that for a minute. He's the head coach. Yes, Shanahan does call the plays, but you were the head coach. You control everything. There's a reason you make more money than him. Call up to the booth and just say, hey, man, start running the ball. Start running the ball. At 28-3, left 2:07 to go in the third quarter, you might as well put Matt Schaub in at quarterback and start running Navy's triple option. You win the game. You win the game if you do that. You could run out the rest of the game, but that wasn't their tendency. There was a lot of things that set that whole course of events up. Some luck, and then attempted greatness. I think this puts to rest all the GOAT talks with Tom Brady and comparing him to Joe Montana. I'm a Notre Dame guy, and Brady's a Michigan guy, and there's nothing more in my life I'd like to say than, Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time, but, he did it. We can if and but it to death, but Tom Brady did it. So, kudos to him. It happened 34-28, the final. There's no way of saying that it was a total collapse. And a little luck. But I do think there needs to be more emphasis put on the actual collapse itself. So the mindset for Shanahan, where what's he thinking, is I kind of look back on this breakdown, and I look back to the NFC Championship game. The Falcons were up 37-15 and going into the fourth quarter. In the first drive of the fourth quarter, the Falcons threw the ball 3 of 7 plays in the first drive of the fourth quarter. Of course, it all worked out. They're completed passes. If that happens in the Super Bowl, they're completing every pass, getting first down, they win. But they never got away from their tendencies, and that's something a play caller I think struggles with. Is it's hard to really get away from their tendencies. Especially when it's worked. I got to believe that Shanahan just thought, okay, we're up 28-3. Who cares what they're doing? Who cares if it's 28-26? We're going to score again. We're going to score again. We're going to score again. There's no way that they can get 2 2-point conversions, which is incredible in the NFL. When they were up 37-15 and they threw the ball 3 of 7 plays going into the fourth quarter, or the first drive of the fourth quarter. Tevin Coleman scored. They got 44-15. That's the dagger. But, I got to think that is exactly where his mindset was. And I still go back to Dan Quinn. I feel like Dan Quinn needs a little more scrutiny on him, because Dan Quinn, he could have, you got to call up to the booth and you got to say, run the ball. Just run the ball. That's it. Just run it up the middle. Down to the 20-yard line, 22-yard line, whatever it was, first down. You get the penalty, push you back. Matt Ryan, he's my guy. I got to call him out too. You're snapping the ball with 23 seconds left, 16 seconds left, 13 seconds left in the play clock. You can't do it. Cannot be done. You can run that clock out. Statistically speaking, you can run the clock out. There's no way they can come back if you just keep running the ball. Make them burn their timeouts. And then, of course, the 2 tip passes, one to Martellus Bennett and the next one to Julian Edelman, which was ridiculously incredible. But, going back to kind of why did I get on the Cubs subject and the Joe Madden and Kyle Shanahan comparison is there was literally 2 coaches that didn't have to do a thing. They didn't have to do one thing to win their title, and they overthought themselves. Completely overthought themselves. Let's go back to the World Series and see if I'm wrong. This is my own take. Let's just take a look at this. There's 2 outs in the 5th inning of the World Series, up 5-1. The Cubs are rolling. They get a runner on base, and you bring in John Lester. Now tell me, that is a luxury, absolute luxury to have Lester out of the bullpen in a Game 7. Loser goes home. There's no tomorrow. That mentality, that's beautiful. You got your ace coming out of the bullpen, but you're up 5-1. Hendricks is rolling, and Johnny can't throw to first. Johnny cannot throw to first. Why would you bring him in that situation? There's screw up number 1. Screw up number 2 is Johnny's rolling now. All right, cool. Johnny's rolling. We're up 5-3, or up 6-3. I'm sorry. And then you get a runner on base. There's 4 outs left, and then you bring in Chapman, who had thrown 20 pitches in Game 6 the night before, which was completely unnecessary. That's screw up number 3, or probably screw up number 1, because he should have never been in that game. We're up 7-2, and you're bringing him in. Why are you bringing him in that game? There's no sense. And on top of that, you bring him in after Rizzo comes in, hits a bomb, and we go up 9-2. There's no sense in him being in that game. Now, go back to comparing this to the Super Bowl collapse. Both games go into extra innings or overtime. Overtime in the Super Bowl, extra innings in baseball. And if the Cubs don't pull that out, we're not talking about Joe Madden being the savior and 108 years and this, that, and the other. No, we're talking about Team 109 and the GOAT and the Black Cat and Bartman. And it all lives on if Joe Madden, if those moves that he made didn't just so happen to work. And I can't say they worked. The players kind of made it work. They came back, they showed heart, and they won. On the flip side of that, are we still talking about Kyle Shanahan today in a negative light? If the Falcons win the toss, go down, score a touchdown, Falcons win the Super Bowl, then what? What are we talking about then? I think the Niners fans are jacked if, oh man, we got the Super Bowl winning OC, Falcons first Super Bowl, and or Atlanta the first championship in X amount of tries. I think they're excited. Now there's all these question marks surrounding Shanahan, and just how easily some things could be if if they pull it out. If the Falcons pull it out, then we're talking about celebration in Atlanta. Matt Ryan, Super Bowl winning quarterback. How many will he get? Well, now I don't know if either one of them wins again. This may be Kyle Shanahan's only stop as an OC. As I heard on the DA show the other day, this is something that's going to follow him around for the rest of his career. And I say that because he had that Super Bowl one. The rings were on the fingers. The Falcon was being scribed into the stinking ring, and he lost it. They lost it. And now he's going to a situation of a team out in San Francisco who doesn't have a quarterback. They'll probably cut Colin Kaepernick. Blaine Gabbert's not a starter. And probably going to, based on some mock drafts I've been looking at on CBS Sports and the like, a couple on Bleacher Report, it looks like they want Trubisky. I like Trubisky. In fact, I would buy the jersey if Trubisky comes to the Bears. But I don't see him as a franchise quarterback right now. They have very few weapons out in San Francisco. And, are they going to win a Super Bowl this year? No. Are they going to win one in 2018? I would think not. How about 2019? If the answer is no, and they're struggling, I don't even think the Niners make the Super Bowl or make the playoffs this year. So there you go. I mean, the NFL is not for long. I know it's cliche to say, and everybody says it, but NFL means not for long. So, if he gets fired after 3 years in San Fran because he can't rebuild it, and then he's going for a job interview, you couldn't rebuild for San Fran, and you also blew a Super Bowl with a 28-3 lead. That's a career ender. That's a tough job to get after that. And then just the mentality of the team. Again, I hope the best for Matt Ryan, but yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to come back. I hope the best for him. That's a tough division. In my opinion, the NFC South, that might be the toughest division in all of sports with those quarterbacks. You got Drew Brees, who, he's got whatever Tim Duncan gene as far as father time goes. Cam Newton, off year this year, but he's still a stud, great athlete. Matt Ryan, of course, great quarterback or good quarterback. Not great level yet, really good quarterback. And then Jameis Winston. Jameis is on his way, and I couldn't stand Jameis in college. I love him now. He's one of the players that I like to watch. That guy's a winner. He is a winner. He makes some bonehead plays here and there, but that guy, I'll take him on the Bears. I'd love to have Jameis Winston. That's actually going to be one of the future shows coming up, is I'd like to go over this quarterback carousel that I think is inevitably going to happen. I think you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks changing towns and going on wearing different uniforms next season. But yeah, I was really excited for that Super Bowl. There's not many I get excited about. I think one of the reasons I was so excited about that Super Bowl is, Matt Ryan, and I followed his whole career since high school, and I was really excited to see, or actually hear media throughout the week. Those 2 weeks between the championship games and the Super Bowl, they're brutal if you don't like the teams. You can't turn on sports radio. You can't download a podcast. You can't watch ESPN. You can't watch any of them. Can't watch anything without talking about the Super Bowl. And I think that's why I was so excited, is I was like, oh man, this is my guy. I get to watch this dude, watch all the media stuff for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be fun. Well, of course that got nixed because of King James. Thank you there, just a kid from Akron, Ohio. I'm not sure where I stand with LeBron. This takes us into our on-deck topic of the day. I want to like him, especially because I think they can take down the Warriors again. That's a tough Warrior team, though. I want to like LeBron. Again, this is going to be kind of going back to his comments there on January 24th. Let's just take a look at some of these comments that he's made. And he infuriates me. You're this big hawking dude. You just should be bowling over dudes, and you flop more than Luis Suarez, dude. You flop a lot. It's kind of nicked in the face and sniper in the tree, But then it's like, I like the guy. I want to like him. He's never been in any trouble. Anybody that says they hate LeBron, they're an idiot. The guy's the most talented player on the planet. He's never been in any trouble. But where he loses me, he's got 2 kids. They seem like great kids. But where he loses me is when he starts whining. Stop whining, LeBron. You're the best player in the world, man. Just, buck up, man. Buckle in. Pull that seatbelt real tight, as Darryl Waltrip real said, and strap in. Let's go, dude. It's a mid-season little slump is all you had. And some of these comments are just detrimental to a team. I mean, I don't know. I'd probably want to fight the guy if I played for this team. Let's take a look at some of these comments. These are from ESPN.com from the January 24th comments after the loss to the New Orleans Pelicans. I just hope we're not satisfied as an organization. I just hope we're not satisfied. He says that twice in there. Well, are you? Is my question, LeBron. You look in the mirror, bud, because you are the franchise, dude. You're the franchise. Are you satisfied? That's something to lump these guys in, or the whole team in there. Here's another one from him. We're not better than we are last year. I know he's a little hurt about losing Dellavedova and Timothy Mozgov, but I mean, you guys are, what is it, $180 million into the luxury tax? They're spending money for you. You make all the decisions there. Nothing gets done with the Cleveland Cavaliers without your blessing, LeBron. Just because the Warriors did get better, I don't doubt that. Hey, that is the one thing he said is in this whole thing is about how they need to get better. Everybody needs to get better. I know he's looking at the Warriors, and they got curb stomped by the Warriors in the game prior to these comments being made. But it's not that they gave up a lot of bench too. The Warriors did. One of the things about the Warriors is they gave up a lot of bench to go get and pay for Kevin Durant. And he's upset about that, and it's definitely understandable. But you're the guy. Here's another comment for him. We top heavy as shit. It's me, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, and it's top heavy. Then he goes on to say, I'm not singling anybody out. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You just contradicted yourself. You're not singling anybody out, but you can pick out names of how top heavy the team is. You're calling out your team, man. You're calling out your team like that. You're basically calling your team a bunch of bums, and that me, Kyrie, and Kevin Love are the only one doing anything. I don't like that. Here's his next comment. We need an effing playmaker. I'm not saying you can just go find one, like you can go outside and see trees. I didn't say that. Well, you're the playmaker on this team, LeBron. You're the playmaker. So make plays. You're very fortunate to have Kyrie Irving, and you're very fortunate to have Kevin Love. So enjoy them. Not every team has 3 playmakers. You guys have 3. You got Tristan Thompson, who's a nice player until the Kardashian effect happened. You got some nice players. It's unfortunate J.R. Smith got hurt. Well, that kind of stuff happens in sports. He's got a thumb injury. They say this could, according to this ESPN article, could be out for a few months. And now he gets into, why y'all worried about, 5 minutes, because they're talking about Ty Lue kind of cutting down his playing time. And, what if he went down for 2 weeks? Well, what if Kevin Durant goes down for 2 weeks? Or what if, I don't know, Paul George goes down for 2 weeks for the Pacers? Or, anybody else. If Isaiah Thomas goes down, the Celtics might as well drop to the D-League right now. He's the only guy carrying that team. LeBron, you're great. You are great. You don't need this. You don't need to address this stuff. Just don't pay attention to it. It's just a mid-season skid. Then he goes on to say, Tyronn Lue comes out and says, I know what we're doing. We're going to be fine. Things like that. And there's really not much else to this other than, he just thinks he's on the back nine of his career, which is true. LeBron is. He's on the back nine of his career. He said, we got to get this figured out. It's been a shitty 2017 so far. No, it hasn't. So now here comes my take on this. So you need to chill out, LeBron. It's not that bad. It is not that bad. It could be much worse. Where these comments stem from, and going by their schedule, I gotta believe this. It's coming from being 26-8 since the turn of 2017, and yeah, sure, it's crappy. It's a crappy 2017, whatever. But you didn't lose to teams you shouldn't lose to. They beat the Brooklyn Nets. They beat the Phoenix Suns. They beat the Sacramento Kings. They beat the Phoenix Suns again. Your losses came to Chicago, New Orleans, Utah, Portland, Golden State, San Antonio, New Orleans again. I don't understand. Actually, it looks like I just don't understand when these comments, where it could be this bad. There was 5 and 6 from the start of the year to January 24th when these comments were made. If anything, the comments should have came when they did actually lose to a bad team and when they lost to the Sacramento Kings in double overtime. It put them at 30-14 when they were 26-8 to start the year. That's maybe when the comments should have came. But, you lost to Anthony Davis. Okay, great. You lost to the Spurs. Good team, man. We're really solid this year. Not just saying that as a Spurs fan, but Pop's got the team reloaded. We lost to Golden State. You lost a West Coast trip, 2 of 3. You beat Phoenix, but you you lost to Utah with Gordon Hayward, and they're having a very nice season out there. And in Portland with Damian Lillard, those kind of losses happen. There were times when Michael Jordan was losing against, pick a team just on a random night in January. It's not that bad. And since those comments, maybe it sparked the team. Who knows? Because since those comments, they're 9-3. They had a nice win before the All-Star break against the Pacers the other night, 113-104. And the reason I say to chill out for LeBron is, going back to a little Homer talk here, is you look at the Cubs. Look at the Cubs this past year. We all know how the story ended. But there was a time, even myself, people had to talk me off the ledge with this team. They were 47-20 on June 19th. That was the night of Contreras' home run on ESPN on his first at bat. And then they slumped, going 6-14 into the All-Star break. From June 20th all the way to July 10th. They only won 6 games. And these were not a nice 6 wins. A nice stretch. The skid started the night after Contreras' first homer. And, they get swept by the St. Louis Cardinals in the next series. Then they go on to get swept later on in July. They get thumped, actually. Thumped 4 in a row by the Mets. The team looks atrocious. Lester, Arrieta, Hamill all got rocked. Hendricks got rocked. It was just a bad stretch. And, that's a team that at that point in time, that was the team that beat us in the NLCS the year before. And it was looking like there was a point where we may not make the playoffs. After starting the season, record bursting out of the gate. This also included a stretch of losing 3 of 4 to the Reds and Braves, who are bad, just basement dweller teams. But the thing we had going for us, and the similarity here with the Cavs, is that the Pirates went out to play the Pirates, PNC, and won a hard-fought win, 6-5, just before the All-Star break. Just like the other night with the Cavs, they go out to Indy, and they get a nice win. They get a nice win against a good Indiana Pacer team that will make the playoffs. Actually, Indy came to Cleveland. And get a nice win against them. And, Paul George, they're solid. They're going to be a 5 through 8 seed, depending upon how good they play. But, yeah, I just think need to chill out, LeBron. It's going to be fine. The only difference is, though, that I see that could, keep this rolling and keep this feeling in the pit of his stomach. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this is what keeps him motivated. I don't know. I'm just throwing comparisons out there, stuff that I noticed from my team that translates into the stuff that he's saying and why he should just kind of chill out, let it play out. Don't call your teammates out. Ain't nobody self-destructing up in Chicago. And like I said, you were in the house the night. You know what the outcome. You know how that story ended. The only difference is the Cubs were the big scary monster at the end of the video game, and the Cavs aren't. The Cavs are not. Golden State is. But the thing I see when he makes these comments is like he's showing vulnerability, man. You got to bury that, dude. You got to bury that. You're the best player in the world. Yeah, I mean, it shows that you feel threatened. You got to chill out on that. But that's kind of my take on that. So, hopefully they can turn it around because, like I said, I can't stand the Warriors. I am not a Warrior fan at all. I really can't stand Draymond Green. And, I really hope that they can pull it off. The city of Cleveland needs it. Of course, Cubs and Indians had to play each other. City of Cleveland did not need that one. Go Cubs, go. So, anyway, I really hope that they can get it together up there. But LeBron, that's why I'm calling him out on this first episode. You're the playmaker, dude. We need a playmaker. Well, you're it. You're one of the best, arguably the greatest player of all time. How many other teams can say they have that? So, all right, that leads us into our Homer in the Hole section. This section, again, this would be a good time if you want to hear about a team that does not fall into the category of my teams, then you may want to tune me out or yell at your radio or something like that, or throw your device through a window or flip on over to the CBS Sports app, like I told you before. Great app, by the way. Great app. Again, they're not paying me for this at all. I just love all the shows on there. You will not be sorry listening to their takes. It's very good stuff. Today's Homer in the Hole. We're going to cover the 2 basketball teams. I'm just going to kind of cherry pick off today's game. Notre Dame, NC State. Mentioned earlier, Notre Dame victorious over NC State, 81-72. Mark Gottfried on his way out the door there. Kind of sad. Seems like a good guy. But they got it tough, man. NC State, you got Duke on one side. You got North Carolina a few more miles down the road, and then you got Wake Forest in the same state. That is not easy. That's not easy at all. So, I wish him luck. I think he's going to be fine. He'll probably land somewhere. But enough about that. We'll get into my teams here and some things to break down. It looks like Rex Pfluger got the start. Mike Bray went with a smaller lineup. Martinez Gebbin, our only sixth guy on the team, 6'10", is tallest guy on the team. Didn't even play a minute. Austin Torres came in off the bench to play that role, to play the 5, but he went with a very small lineup today of Vesturia, Farrell, Beecham, Colson, and Pfluger. And I like the lineup. It was a little slow start. B.J. Beecham comes down the lane, has an easy layup, and clanks it off the corner of the iron like it was me trying to lay it up. But went with a small lineup. This is a funky team. I'm pumped for what Bray's done with them. But I don't know. We could be if I go into a coma tonight and wake up after the tournament and you tell me they were one and done, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably right. They probably had a weird matchup. Then again, if I woke up and you said this was the Final Four team that Bray's been dying to get, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'd believe that too. It's all about matchups in the tournament. That's kind of how it was last year. Notre Dame, we had Michigan to start. It was a nice matchup. Stephen F. Austin upset Wake Forest. And we got to play Stephen F. Austin, and we had to tip in to win that. And then we got Wisconsin, who was a lower seed, who knocked off my ex-boys, knocked off Xavier. And Xavier I had picked last year to go to the Final Four. And then we had to have a miracle to beat Wisconsin, and then we ran into a freight train of North Carolina. So that was tough. Again, that was all about matchups. I'm not sure that Elite Eight happens last year if we don't get those matchups. I really don't. Call a spade a spade. That's one thing on my show that I will always call out my teams. As much as I call it Homer in the Hole, I'm going to call my teams out. There's no reason to be so much of a blind Kool-Aid drinking Homer. It just makes you look foolish. It really does. Same team today. We got out to a hot start. Actually, we didn't get out to a hot start. We got out to a slow start. Then we got hot. And that is what Notre Dame does. Every sport that I watch, any Notre Dame fan can tell you, it ain't over till it's over. It's kind of like watching NASCAR. Don't even turn it on till the end. Just get to see the winner. We had a 24-point lead, and NC State cut the lead to as little as 9, I think was the smallest amount. Every now and then we're sleepwalking, and I don't know what it is. And that's what scares me about this tournament, because we run into a buzzsaw or somebody that gets hot and it doesn't let us back in it, or we're not hitting our threes. That could be a quick out for us. So I like the small lineup that Bray went with today. That puts us at 21-7 and overall, and 10-5 in the ACC, and that's huge, getting 10 wins. I do worry about some of the quality of our wins. Florida State is the most bipolar team in the country, and we dominated them at home. But again, they're the most bipolar team in the country, and Bray's very good at the Joyce Center. He's extremely good at the Joyce Center. Barely ever loses there. We destroyed them. That's fine. That's all good. But, some days Florida State looks like the best team in the country. Other days they look like just, a nice average ACC team, which isn't all that bad, by the way. There's a consensus between me and a few friends that the ACC tournament should be the national championship tournament every year, and then everybody else play for second. The ACC's strong, man, top to bottom. Well, top to about 13th or 12th. NC State's playing rough. I mean, that team, I don't know if they can buy a game right now. They're not as bad talent-wise as Boston College, but they're just so many things have gone wrong that they're gonna have a hard time, despite any kind of effort or talent, being able to get any wins down the stretch here. Another team I want to cover here. Xavier plays tonight. Hoping to get a W against Marquette. I don't know much about Marquette. I'm a big East basketball fan. I know they're 15-10, but I'm worried about Xavier. They lost Sumner, the point guard, to the ACL for the season, and Trayvon Blewett, I don't even know if he's going to play tonight. He was in a walking boot for Providence Wednesday night this week, and they got beat by Providence. Xavier's 1-6 against the top 25. Their best wins against probably Creighton. Also beat Utah, Wake Forest, Clemson. They got a win earlier in the season against Providence and a couple weeks ago against Seton Hall. Those aren't great wins. We're sitting here at 18-8. I don't know. It depends on how the committee is going to look at the Big East. If they look at the Big East like the conference that they can be, or the conference that they are, as far as being top heavy, you got Villanova in there, you got Creighton, you got X, Butler. Marquette's not a bad team. They're 15-10. Really didn't look too much at who their quality wins are against. But X's resume doesn't really stack up, especially when you're talking about your best quality win is one that's in conference. I mean, they got a couple ACC names on there, but Wake and Clemson, Blossom Game's amazing for Clemson, by the way. That kid is something else. But as far as the team itself and what the committee's going to look at when they're breaking down numbers, they're going to see Wake and Clemson, but then you're talking about, what are they, 15-10 or 15-11 squads. So I don't know if Blewett can play tonight at a high level, great. If he can't, I say sit him. I say sit him again, and just I wouldn't worry about the ankle tonight if he can't play at a high level, because you're at risk here if you lose some of these games down the stretch and you don't fare well in the tournament. At 18-8, let's say they go 2-3 or 2-4 down the stretch. Now we're talking about a 20-12 team from the Big East. I don't know. I don't know if they make it. I think you got to get Blewett healthy. That's first off. Sumner, that was huge. They could also be another one and done. I know one of the bracketologies I looked at, I think on ESPN, had them opening up against Syracuse and Boeheim in that zone in a 7-10 matchup. And Xavier's done. That's it. 1 and out for X. And I love Chris Mack. And I love the team. I like JP McKira. He puts a lot of heart out there, but he is what he is. He's gonna chuck up some threes. He's gonna play scrappy, but they need Blewett. They need Blewett to play tough, and they need the freshmen to step in for Sumner and keep playing well. So let's get to our cleanup topic of the day, and that would be the issue with Jordan Spieth. I don't talk a whole lot of golf on here. After you had this, if there's any listeners left after suffering through my slobbering all over my teams, don't get too much golf, which is fine. I like golf. I've played a couple times in my life. I like Rory McIlroy. I'm a big McIlroy fan, and I'll tell you why. McIlroy trains like an actual athlete. I don't know if anybody's ever seen his training regimen. The dude trains hard. He trains like an actual athlete. In fact, I've heard rumors, which you hear this stuff all the time, about dudes who can play other sports and things of that nature. But I've heard he could potentially play soccer at a high level, which, of course, ended after he decided to destroy his Achilles tendon, but whatever. Shouldn't take that risk, but the guy actually trains hard. I mean, he's the only guy I've ever heard of that, and a couple other golfers said he has too much muscle, which is hurting his career. But yeah, I'm a big Rory fan. My wife, she likes Jordan Spieth. We both like Jordan. But this article about the autographs thought was pretty interesting from USA Today. Was February the 8th. These professional autograph seekers. And think about that for a minute. This is guys that go around and all they do is ask for autographs, and then they try to sell them. I mean, I think he's right on. Jordan said that, the F-bomb was dropped in front of kids, and he responded to him calling them scums, because these guys are scums. These guys, that's what they do. They go around and they try to get autographs from these guys, and they live through these people. I mean, I'm not a big autograph guy personally. If you get a picture with somebody, I think it's more meaningful. I don't have many autographs. I have a Tony Rice autographed number 9 jersey, the last national championship winning quarterback for Notre Dame. Several pictures with him. Good dude. I don't get too enamored by stars per se. I love sports, and I like my guys there's guys out there I really enjoy and that seem like good people. But I don't get too enamored by autographs, so I don't know why the vile kind of nastiness these guys would have, especially when you're bringing a bag full of stuff. And I've heard stories about this. These guys, these high-level athletes, they go out to eat, and some dude will just roll up. They're with their family, and then some dude just rolls up with a bag full of stuff and say, I want you to autograph this stuff. These guys out with his family. They're people too. I know it comes with the territory to a certain extent, but they're people too, man. There's a human etiquette, I feel like, involved there. But Jordan hit it right on the head. He said a couple of them were saying, you're not Tiger Woods, don't act like you're Tiger. And he kind of looked back apparently and said, whatever, guys, you're trying to benefit off me, and I'm not even Tiger Woods. It's perfect. That was great. Good for Jordan. That's awesome. He even says down here, he said, our team keeps track of that kind of thing. These guys that just have bags of stuff to benefit from other people's success, and they didn't do anything themselves. Get a job instead of trying to make money off of the stuff that we have been able to do. He mentioned signing stuff for charity, and if you ask anybody, that they do stuff for kids, and really they're ruining it for kids and people like me, and I'll get to me in a second. But the reason they're ruining it, these professional autograph seekers, is because that's where these blanket policies of just no autographs come in. Several facilities I've heard of it, just no autographs, none. Just, that's it, cuts it out, and that's really crappy for kids. It's also, like I said, I'm not big into autographs, so if I want a dude's autograph, I'm probably not going to sell it. I'm probably going to roll up to this dude with one item. I'm going to be chicken. I'm probably going to be like, I don't even really want to bother this guy. And it's not because I'm intimidated by him or anything, but I just don't, he's a human too. I don't want to, he or she, I don't really want to, I'm not a big person to bother him. I met David Robinson and took my mother and my wife to be able to get me to walk up to him. So, I just don't want to bother these guys. It's cool to see him and this and that, but, they're trying to go about their way too. But, but again, it not only ruins it for the kids, because then these places come with these blanket policies of, not letting anybody sign anything for anybody. But then again, it ruins it for people like me who maybe just want something signed, throw it in my man cave. Hey, man, Matt Ryan jersey, for instance, or, Tony Rice, he's pretty open to signing, or even Tim Duncan. It's like, well, I just want this one piece. I want to put it up in my house. But now they look at me. I'm 30 years old. They're going to look at me like, man, this guy, he's going to sell this online. I ain't signing for him, And it even says that, in the article about how these guys will, pay kids to run up and, sign this. And they take it back to the autograph seeker. The seeker kind of slips him a 10 and rolls out, and then he sells it for X amount of money. So kind of crazy. Just real pain in the ass. I'm not a big fan of that. It's not cool, especially when you just consider what they're trying to do. I don't like that at all. There's reputable places to be able to get autographs and things like that. Kind of like Steiner's. I know they're professional. I think they're pretty professional about going about getting their autographs. But yeah, other than that, these guys are a pain. So it's kind of what I got to say about that. Would like to be able to meet some of these characters sometime and kind of put them on blast for this, because I think there's more of them out there than what you think. I think some of these guys are out there just like Jordan says, they're trying to make money off of stuff they didn't do. I don't know why. I mean, to me, I'm just not really sure where the love comes from trying to get these autographs. But like I said, they're ruining it for everybody. So hope they're happy. And it's really ruining it for themselves too, by not having a good approach and not going, not being able to have a good rapport with the athlete or this or that. They're hurting their own businesses more than anything. So, well, that about wraps up the show for this episode. This one's gone on about long enough. But each week, each episode, I wouldn't call it each week. Going to have a kind of wrap up the show with what I call the backup quarterback section. And the backup quarterback section is named that because if you thought the whole episode sucked, kind of like the first string, may suck for your team sometimes. Who's the most popular guy on the team? It's the backup quarterback. He might come in and save the day, and he may take the ship all the way to the bottom. So hopefully this one doesn't take it all the way to the bottom. Hopefully we're not even close to the bottom yet. But so the topic this week for the backup quarterback section is, it can be anything. It can be from any walk of life, but I'm always going to chain it back into sports. Two things you will not hear on this show is politics, and you will not hear fantasy football. I don't play it. I played one time in college, and I went 500. I really didn't put much effort into it, and I watch dudes cheer against their teams. Not for me. I can't cheer against my teams. I'm not going to pick guys off the Packers. Sorry. It's worthless to me. And on the flip side of that, I could also see myself getting too involved, and I like losing my job and living on the street and like relying on fantasy football and autograph seeking potentially. So again, backup quarterback section this week. It does kind of step outside the world of sports, but gonna tie it back in a little bit. Watched the Grammys last Sunday. First time I've watched an award show in ages. I can't tell you the last one. Like if you paid me $1 million right now, I could not tell you the last award show that I watched. Adele cleaned up. I enjoyed it. There was a couple things that sucked me into it of why I wanted to watch it. It was some of the acts that were going to be on there. Seeing Bruno Mars and hearing about Lady Gaga, which I'm oddly becoming a fan of. Used to not be able to stand her. I couldn't stand her, that chick. And now I don't know why. I can't even explain why I'm like starting to like her. But the whole performance with Metallica, when I heard about that was going to happen, I'm a Metallica fan from the day. I love Metallica. Yeah, when I heard she was going to perform with them, I was like, okay, you have my attention, sir. You intrigue me. So there's that, and then I seen that Bruno Mars was going to be on there, and anything with Katy Perry is always good. But a lot of Bruno Mars. Let's go back to him for just a second. Bruno Mars, in my opinion, can do the Super Bowl halftime show till the end of time and just get to pick his co-entertainer. The guy is amazing. He is somebody for all generations. You know, he could have been popular in any generation. We're very fortunate. If you're not a fan of this dude, you have no pulse. This guy is awesome. If you don't like rap or you don't like that style of music or this or that, and he's not rap. I mean, he just covers all generations, all nationalities. It's great. Bruno is awesome. So Roger Goodell, if you want to do anything right, which you never do, so sign Bruno up for all the Super Bowls until the end of time. This guy is something else. As far as the show itself, Adele she ran through him. She ran through Beyonce. You know, a lot of hate out there on Adele for cleaning up. A lot of people thought that Lemonade album should have won. And the way I look at this, and I'm going to tie this back into sports, is Adele's Tom Brady right now. She is Tom Brady. You know, she stays within her own. She stays in her own system. She doesn't step outside of her box, and she just wins. And that's what she did there at the Grammys. You know, Beyonce, she's like Aaron Rodgers. She might be a little more versatile. You know, Aaron was compared to like the Michael Jordan this year of quarterbacks, or Michael Jordan of the NFL. And, you know, Beyonce's a little more versatile. She can do quite a few different things that Tom Brady or that Adele can't. But Adele just keeps on winning. She doesn't even look like a star. Like if you look at Tom Brady at the early part of his career, and he looks a little more like one now, but not quite. You know, and Adele's still pretty young in her singing career, but Adele, you know, she is, at the end of the day, she's the one with all the awards, and Beyonce is not. If I'll be honest with you, like this is coming from somebody who listens to every kind of music. I listen to everything. Actually, mostly rap and hip hop. Love rap and hip hop. It's what gets me going before a workout. Keeps my day fresh. Keeps my day rolling. And when comparing the two albums and to the two songs and this and that, like the Beyonce thing, no matter how culturally impactful and socially impactful that those things are, it just wasn't that good. It didn't have a good sound, didn't have a good vibe. There's like a lot of Beyonce fans that I know that are even like, it wasn't that good. You know, I don't know. It just didn't have a good. Some people just didn't like it, and that's fine. But Adele, like I said, stayed in her system. Does her own thing. She's not going to step outside her box. I don't know if anybody's heard it. At least I've heard. I'm not sure how true or this or that. Could have researched this a little further, but it's my backup quarterback section, and most people have probably turned this off anyway. But Adele was actually asked to do the Super Bowl halftime show, and she didn't, and turned it down. And that's huge. That's huge. I mean, she could have really got her name out there quite a bit more. Not that she needs it now, especially in the entertainment community. But again, that just goes to show she's staying in her lane, staying in the system. Tom Brady, Tom Belichick, staying in the system, and they make the system work. And there you go. And then you got your winner at the end of the day, who's holding the trophy. And I know, like a final thought on that is, Adele kind of took some heat from, not necessarily heat, but this or that. She was maybe too gracious in victory. Is like the way I compare that, being in the fight game and as a former fighter and now involved heavily in grappling and jiu-jitsu is, kind of reminded me of when a fighter fights somebody that he admires and looks up to, and he knocks him out or beats him, and he's just overly gracious. You can tell Adele has a lot of respect for Beyonce, and that was her hero, and she knocked her hero out last Sunday. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from. A lot of people are saying, just accept the award, just be gracious to yourself, and don't even mention. Some people say not even mention Beyonce. Don't. It is what it is. She beat her hero. It is what she wins at the end of the day. So that's the end of the show for this week. Hopefully the next episode will be out in the next few days. Preview episode 2 here. We're going to look at March Madness. A little bit of March Madness. I want to lead off next week with the NFL quarterback swapping. We'll take a look at the UConn women's basketball team. We'll also take a look at my homer in the hole on the landscape of Notre Dame football and the cleaning up, just absolute mauling that Kelly and Coach Elko are doing to the recruiting scene, and we'll kind of get the pulse on that. We'll do an in the hole a cleanup section with the McGregor Mayweather buzz. That apparently this fight might happen. And our backup quarterback section next week is to be determined. We'll come up with something fun for that. And as far as sports for the end of the weekend here, we got Xavier playing tonight against Marquette at 8:00. That one's on CBS Sports. And then tomorrow night, real shout out to Sarah McMahon. Follow her on Twitter at Sarah_McMahon. She is fighting. I'm not even sure who she's fighting. That's pitiful. She's one of my favorite MMA fighters. Female MMA fighters. I have to look it up here. Is it Gina Mazzani? I know that she was supposed to fight Liz Carmouche, and Carmouche got hurt. So shout out to her, and hopefully she can get back on track. I think with the landscape of women's MMA right now, I think that she could make a run back at a title. She's a former Olympian. One day when we get into an MMA show, I have some strong opinions on why she's not necessarily reached her potential in mixed martial arts. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully it wasn't too choppy. And my goals for this show, in the future, I want you to laugh. I want you to think. I want you to yell at your device, possibly destroy it, and maybe talk to yourself. You shouldn't always agree with the sportscasters. I think that's what makes it so fun. The people I like the most, I don't always agree with them. I think that's what makes it fun. So, till next time, I'm looking forward to episode 2 and hope you all enjoyed it.